Love between humans is just not easy. And without great examples or education about emotions, communication, sex, and what keeps love alive, it's too easy to be disheartened, settle, or give up on what you want most. I believe you can have the love and intimacy you want. And having coached thousands of people on their love lives for over 20 years, I know what love can be for you. So I'm bringing you people who share vulnerably about their dating and relationship struggles and how they learn to create the most connected, fulfilling, and exciting love and sex of their lives, so you can have it too. If you haven't yet taken the quiz to see what keeps you from having the best love and sex of your life, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. You'll get a personalized report of your strengths and challenges in the 5 crucial areas that lead to your most fulfilling and exciting love and sex life. Go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz to find out. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Practicing Love, Have the Best Love and Sex of Your Life After 40. I'm really excited today to be here with Bodhi Aldridge. Bodhi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And yes, every conversation we've had, you've been an inspiration to me because I can feel how big your heart is and how deep your heart is and how much you love people, and you have, you work with people in the context of coaching and executive coaching and personal coaching. So I know that you go deep, and I also know that you're human, right? This podcast is designed to show that even people who are successful and have been working in this field and working with their own relationships for decades still face struggles, and that nobody's alone in this. So thank you for being here and for being willing to be vulnerable with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. And to all the listeners, we're all on the journey together.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship, your romantic relationship, what that's like? How many years have you been in it?
Yeah, that's right. Just realized we're in 2025 now. So this will be 46 years since we started going out, and 41 years we've been married.
Amazing.
So, incredible journey with the goddess Amala. And, we have 4 children, 4 adult children and 10 grandchildren now. So passionate about relationship and supporting men and women to, create what they're looking for.
Beautiful. You have a pack of a huge family. I just love imagining. I remember one time you were talking about being all on the beach together, and how beautiful that is, especially to have a conscious family, right? I can imagine there's all kinds of dynamics that happen when families get together. When I imagine you and the consciousness that you have bringing these, little beings together, it's inspiring.
Yeah. And to the point of the podcast, it's also comes with its challenges. It's, to any of the listeners, my generation, the Waltons was a TV show. It's not real, so we don't all sit around drinking eggnog and, singing hymns. There's challenges. Yet at times somebody remembers, it has enough awareness to remember that there's a bigger context.
Yeah.
And hopefully that person feels heard in the conversation, because it is challenging.
Is there anything just briefly you want to say about what kind of challenges show up? Because again, maybe I even have an idealized vision of, okay, well, my family, there's constant fighting and yelling and all of that. Your family's probably not like that because you're, a conscious grandparent. But what are some of the challenges that come up?
Yeah, and I think the theme for me, and certainly working with clients, I work a lot with men, as you know, business owners and leaders, is, our family of origin isn't necessarily the place where we're going to feel the safest, isn't necessarily the place where we're going to feel seen.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's actually the incubator for the opposite. And, often talk about you have your family of origin, and you also have your spiritual family. Those souls that you connect with, that see you, that value you. And so I think our family of origin is the foundational work to be a higher version of yourself. Yet, working with clients who feel obliged, they've got to try and create this, happy extended family with their siblings, with their parents and everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to, don't be obliged. And I say that to my children, particularly my daughter-in-laws. We've got 2 sons, 2 daughters. And,
Yeah.
You know, I know for myself, you know, as a daughter-in-law coming and hanging with your father-in-law, you know, who thinks he's got his shit sorted and bangs on about stuff. Like it's challenging, you know, as beautiful as they are. And I do my best to offer all of them that it's a choice, you know, don't feel you got to hang. And so to your question specifically, many, many layers. So my oldest daughter, who's now 40, just turned 40 last year.
Yeah.
She's very much like me. So we clash a lot. So it's like looking in the mirror, you know, like I got control issues, she's got control issues. I want to zig, she wants to zag, you know. So, and you know, I've done so much healing work on my relationship with her. Yeah. You know, not necessarily with her, but my own reflection around the father I was, the guilt that I've carried as a father, the shame that I've carried as a father. Yeah. Knowing underneath that I did the best I could, yet also it caused pain and caused trauma. You know, and that's part of parenting to any of the listeners.
Yeah.
And so it's softened a lot. You know, the end of last year, I did a deep dive on a retreat, and what came up was some healing for me around my relationship with my oldest daughter. And this Christmas has been beautiful. It's softened. There's more compassion. But that's a point of tension. And, you know, one of the other things is that, you know, each of them have a different parenting style.
Uh-huh.
And as a grandparent, of course, my style is the right style, as you know. And so when you've got, you know, we had 17 people staying for periods of time, you know, you've got 10 grandchildren, a bunch of the kids, you know, it's for me, you know, to be really mindful of how do I respect and honor what's going on in this system.
Yes.
And I certainly didn't get it right, but I have a level of awareness around which food does this child eat? How much screen time does this child have? What's, you know what I mean? What's appropriate? What's the parents' boundaries on this, parents' boundaries on that? You know, it's like, you know, in the context of compassion.
Oh my God.
It can be really tricky, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that honesty, because again, you know, I think I see you as a conscious leader. And so it's my mind immediately fills in that fantasy of like, okay, well, right, they're probably sitting around and having these deep conversations. And the reality is, sure, that can happen. And also different parenting styles, different father-daughter, father-son relationships. So many things can happen. So thank you for being honest about that, because I think a lot of people feel ashamed of either not being able to create the family they want or not being able to, you know, if they're not the head of the family, being able to engage in dynamics that actually are healthy.
Yeah, if you think about, you know, for most of us in the Western world, you know, so much of our life has been the external validation of, you know, when it looks okay externally, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
And we're constantly striving to get the external world looking a certain way.
Yeah.
And, you know, particularly when it comes to family, extended family, family of origin and all of that. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
You know, so because there is no, you know, all the cultural, social norms about what family's supposed to look like, what relationships supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not real.
No.
They're just constructs, you know, the movie, you know, the Disney movies for the little girls wanting to be the princess and all of that, you know, like it's, and so, you know, part of I guess my journey is that you get to create authentic relationship that works for you, works in your relationship, works in your family. And the more you can do that and encourage authenticity in that community, in your family, the bigger chance that you're going to find what works for you. Where's the win-win in this group?
Yeah.
And in couples, I know a lot of couples listen to your podcast. It's the same. Like there's no one way or right way to do this.
Yeah.
You know, there are tools and tips on how to love yourself, how to create authentic self. You know, yet if you can build that in your marriage, you know, whether it's same sex, whatever it might be, and trust this is what works for us.
Right.
Yeah. Then it doesn't matter what the external world thinks.
Yeah. I love that. Going back to you talking about your wife, I noticed that you said the goddess. And I love that. I know some people listening, might hear that, and some people probably just didn't even hear it. Some people heard it and were like, "Was that?" Other people are like, "Ooh, that's exciting and inspiring." For me, what that says is that there's a kind of reverence and a kind of way that you hold your wife and hold the relationship. And I'm wondering if you can say a little bit about how you hold that, what that means to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and there are many different layers. If I talk about my lived experience, Amala, we met very, very young. We met at school. We navigated all of that, high school, becoming parents in our 20s.
Wow.
And it's, like, I'm amazed at how much of my shadow she put up with in that, her commitment to her personal journey and also commitment to me. And to any of the listeners, the one thing, the experience I had was that Amala just kept calling me forth to be a higher version of myself. Yeah. And energetically, if not specifically, it was, I don't want the little boy anymore. I don't want the wounded 7-year-old. I don't want the dysfunctional 10-year-old. I can see a man in there that I want to be with that person. Yeah. And for me, again, not consciously, many, many times, yet in hindsight, it was a safe space for me to go and do the work, with my therapist, with my coaches. We've done work together. Like, we got together very young and very early on. And any of the listeners, one of the things we both realized, I think, is that neither of us had done long-term relationship. Why don't we go and get an expert?
Yeah.
So we've had, therapists, counselors, coaches all through the last 46 years.
Yeah, good.
Different times, different people, and not necessarily when things were going wrong. But just as a check-in, a tune-in,
right.
like, again.
How do we make sure we're actually on track?
Yeah. Roger Federer had a coach right till the end because he wanted to be the best version of himself.
Yep.
And that's what I say to couples is, like, find someone who has the expertise or the lived experience who can support you. And interesting, Shana, at the time in our 20s, particularly, all our friends thought, you guys must be, stuffed up. You guys are going to see a counsellor. That cultural norm, particularly the Anglo-Australian English, maybe different in the US.
That something must be wrong or bad in order to do that.
And we're like, no, we just like, why wouldn't you talk to an expert?
Grow and
you've got a personal trainer or a golf coach. Why wouldn't you have a relationship?
Why wouldn't you do this here?
Yeah.
I love one of the things you said around, she saw the best in you. She saw who you truly are and are, and called you forward. And that's one of the things I often share with my relationship coaching clients is, you can see the worst in someone and cut them down, or you can see the best in someone and lift them up. And which do you think actually, is more inspiring for that person to step forward, to step up, to change, to grow? And so it sounds like that has been a part of your relationship. And I heard you use the word safety too, that somehow you both created a kind of safety that allowed each of you to grow. And it sounds like that was part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And, working with men, what I know is it's not that men don't want to be vulnerable. It's just they need to feel safe to be vulnerable.
Yeah, agreed.
And any couples, if we look at the threads of the masculine and feminine energy, which, as you know, aren't necessarily gender based, most men are more in their masculine, most women are more in their feminine, and ultimately, the men in their masculine, the deepest desire is actually to feel safe, and to be called forth. To the divine masculine is here to be of service to the divine feminine.
Yeah.
But in us and in relationship, it's like, if I can serve the feminine, and again, again, for any of the women listening, it's how do I call forth? How do I create safe space? How do I bring this beautiful man forward? Yeah. And, you know, in a lot of ways we are simple, you know, pat our heads, rub our tummy. Yeah. And, you know, we need the guidance. We need the direction. We literally, you know, like for me as a young husband, and I'd say for a lot of my clients, the only representation of the feminine I had was my mother.
Wow.
And I projected all of that onto Amala.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had no reference. It's like, that's what the feminine does. That's who you are. And she's like, I'm not your friggin' mother.
Right.
Like, step up, grow up, do the work.
Yeah.
You know, like, you want to be with this goddess, do the work.
Yeah.
You know,
and I wonder if this is part of, we haven't really specifically gotten to a struggle yet, though I can tell, right, that there's a you who has, you know, been carved, let's say, or chiseled, you know, in some ways over the years as you've stepped up and learned and grown, and you've alluded to some of the harder times when you were younger. You said something about, the masculine, divine masculine being in service to the feminine, divine feminine. And I think, again, some people could hear that and be like, what is that? And then there's a lot of men who identify as nice guys, where there's a distinction, right, between in service to the divine feminine versus I'm losing myself to try to make a woman happy.
Yeah. Yeah, great awareness. And, you know, the hero's journey, again, which I talk a lot about, is for any of the men listening, you know, particularly the nice guys, as you say, you know, the beautiful overlay of the hero's journey is the integral work, you know, the Ken Wilber work. If you think about the wake up, the clean up, the grow up, the show up, and the open up. Yeah, and again, it's not linear, but these are the parts of the puzzle. If you don't do your own inner work, you can never truly serve your divine feminine or the divine feminine.
I love that. So what was it? Clean up, grow up,
show up. Wake up, clean up. Yeah, grow up, show up, open up. Yeah,
beautiful.
And the quick thread, you know, and again, it's you map that through the hero's journey. Waking up is really getting a sense of who I really am, not all of the constructs and false identity.
Yeah.
Cleaning up is doing the work, doing the shadow work, you know, all of the beautiful work that you do with men and couples.
Yeah.
Growing up is we don't have rites of passage, you know, like in traditional cultures, you've initiated into manhood. You know, you go from little boy to big boy, from big boy to young man, you know.
Yeah.
Showing up is really getting clear on your purpose, your why. What am I here for? Who am I as a man? What am I making a stand for?
Yes.
And then opening up in the hero's journey, the once you touch the Holy Grail, which is what we're searching for, is you have to integrate the 5 aspects of your divine feminine, of your feminine. And that's the opening up. That's the integration piece. So,
beautiful.
So that's a little bit of a map. So when I say being of service to the feminine, it's about my divine feminine. And again, you know, there's another whole podcast around, you know, staying in my masculine energy and accessing feminine traits. I've got 7 granddaughters, you know, what a beautiful, beautiful experience it is. And then also about, I mean, at this stage of our relationship and marriage, more and more, I want to be able to support Amala to be the highest version of her.
Amazing. Okay, so can we speak about a particular struggle that you've had in relationship, and we'll get to how you're practicing with it now, but what's been a struggle or a theme for you?
Yeah, I mean, so the theme, and I can talk specifically about, you know, something that's just happened we've been working through as well, you know, just to give listeners the idea that, you know, 46 years of marriage, we're still working on stuff, you know. So it kind of, you know, and that's the context of our relationship. And so one of the particular struggles, you know, and Amala's done amazing, is part of my life journey. So when my parents separated when I was 7, single mum, you know, living in social housing. And for me, one of the real challenges was the only way I got to feel safe was to try to control the external world. And so, you know, I became a control freak.
Yeah.
Basically, all through our marriage, my default under pressure is to control, and how do I control the external world? How do I control the situation?
Yeah.
And that's been a huge challenge for Amala, because, and the children.
Yeah.
Because, I would come home and, want to control the household and, all of those sorts of things. And the journey for me, and so this theme still plays out, particularly as the listeners would know, when we're under the most pressure, we go back to our old habits.
Yes.
So when I'm scared, tired, feeling under attack, I launch externally, and I want to control externally. Yeah. And I like to think I'm better at that, yet I know it still comes up, when I get triggered.
Yeah.
The flip of control, of course, as I've done the work on myself, therapy on myself and my coaches, is that the flip of control is the ability to trust.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And to really trust myself, not blind trust myself, trust my intuition, trust it's all going to be okay, trust that the people around me are working for the highest good, that I don't need to micromanage, that I don't need to control the external world. And
which
that's
I
been
imagine
a constant
is,
thing.
yeah. And I imagine that's not something that you would do as an island, right? If you're navigating that with other people, that there are conversations you have or moments where you're not just trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going back to relationship and to your listeners. One of the first things when I talk to couples is, what's the context of our relationship?
Yeah. Which most people I ask that are like, what do you mean?
Exactly. What's this container about?
Yeah.
Because as you say, as householders, we don't live in a vacuum. We're not monks. We're not living, in a monastery. We're living in the cut and thrust of the Western world, and married, mortgage, kids. And, for Amala and I, unconsciously and then consciously, we realized that the container, the context of our relationship is about supporting each other in our personal and spiritual journey.
Nice.
And again, I'm not always the best at that, but if people are clear why we're together, what is the context? Is it about just having fun and traveling the world? Is it about bringing up children? Yeah. Or is it about supporting ourselves in our personal and spiritual growth?
Yeah.
Then that context can become the anchor. Yeah, when you're going through tough times,
yes,
you can go, hang on a tick, that's why we're together.
Right.
Let's go back to that.
And this is actually showing up in service of why we're together, as opposed to, we think, oh God, why is this happening to me? Oh, how can we use this to actually move toward this why, this context? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And just again, to give the listeners some real time, so we had all of the family over Christmas. And in Australia here, Christmas is summer, it's beach time, it's, we live by the beach.
Yeah.
And so we had 17 people staying on and off, coming and going. And Amala does a lot of the heavy lifting. I mean, I do a lot, I do a lot of the cleaning and kitchen cooking. I love that. She does a lot of the heavy lifting. But at the end of it, she's exhausted. Yeah. And, basically one of the themes in our relationship is that, and I think for the feminine often, she doesn't feel seen and she doesn't feel valued by me. I'm happily giving to everybody else, to the grandchildren or kids, but when it comes to her, just saying, can you just move this mattress for me? Or can you just lift this for me? In my world, I've been giving to everybody else.
Right.
And so, we were literally, a few days after everybody left, tidying up, and Amala does a lot of the heavy lifting, the laundry and the beds and all of that. And it was just a simple request that I didn't respond to, that really triggered her.
Yeah.
I went into a lot of fear as well. And since then, we've had 3 sessions without our therapist, our couples coach.
Great.
And, you know, the common theme, which is an old theme, and any of the listeners, you know, these old, you know, chestnuts that keep surfacing.
It goes very deep into these old
Exactly.
wounds.
Yeah, you know, with my control issues, with my narcissistic tendencies, she doesn't feel seen and heard and valued.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, you know, it wasn't about the mattress.
Right. It's never about the mattress.
Exactly. But it was just that here it is again, you know,
Yes.
you still don't see me. You still don't value this. One simple request I have is, can you just move this?
Wow.
And, you know, you're happy to give everybody else your time.
Yes.
You know, and so it's a tender wound, you know, that, you know, and I take responsibility for not meeting that need in a loving way.
Yeah. How do you hold that without, and maybe this does happen, but you come back out of it too, right? The shame spiral, because a lot of people are quick to defend. And what I hear you saying is, no, I actually do take responsibility for that. I'm not necessarily seeing or valuing her. How do you do that for yourself?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I teach, and certainly my journey, Shanna, is that, you know, if you really accept that the external world, particularly in committed relationship, is only ever mirroring back a part of you haven't loved and haven't healed. Always. Yeah. So whenever I get triggered, whenever I get defensive, whenever I get scared, whenever I get angry, it's not about Amala.
Yeah.
It's not about the kids. Yeah. It's a part of me.
You hold that. That's part of your context of being in a relationship.
That's my context, you know, and that's what I teach the leaders, and not, you know, not just in committed relationship, but also in the workplace.
Also, exactly.
You know, like if you can treat the world, as a mirror that's offering you an opportunity to heal a part of you.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're actually at a deep level creating those opportunities through the frequency and vibration, then all of this becomes the self-hero's journey fundamentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, one of the fundamental beliefs, whenever we get triggered, whenever we get defensive, whenever we get scared, the meaning we're giving the external experience in that moment is I'm not good enough. I'm not valuable and lovable.
Yeah.
In this moment, I don't feel that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, and I'm not saying I do this all the time, but when I have awareness, when I get defensive, I just go, this is my stuff.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean we don't have an honest conversation about boundaries, about expectations, about needs. You know,
right. There's a yes and there, right? So
exactly.
That's you're taking responsibility and there's a co-creation of how are we doing this?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Relationships are really simple. Communicate your expectations and have them met.
Communicate your expectations and have them met.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting. Because many people I talk to say expectations are the death of whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And people talk about expectations and needs, and there's lots of nuance in there. But if you really create a safe container in a relationship, and you really can give honest and receive honest feedback and communication, and obviously teach this in work as well as marriage. If you think about it, as enlightened as we are, at some level we all have expectations.
I'm like, most of us, I would say, are not very enlightened, even though we try. But okay.
Yeah, exactly. So why not, with love, communicate your expectations?
Yeah.
Why not, contextually, communicate it and have it met in a win-win way, not in a manipulative way, not in a needy way.
Well, that's a good distinction, right? It's like, okay, how do we communicate an expectation? Maybe I'm curious what you would say without necessarily attachment or with a willingness to be curious. Like, I have this expectation. Is this a real expectation? Is this from my heart? Is this from my past? Is this from my wound?
Yeah. We talk a lot about win-win or no deal. Yeah.
I love that.
The distinction between context and content. So the context, the content is the stuff. But the context gives meaning to the stuff. And there are layers of context. Mm-hmm. And so, there are many threads I can pull on this, but essentially, just trying to think of in a simple way, a meaningful way, So an example I use is, husband and wife, and the inability to tell a whole truth. So husband says to the wife, let's go out for dinner Friday night. Yeah. And he's like, great, what a great idea. Yeah. And this is on Monday.
Okay.
And Tuesday, it's like, have you chosen a restaurant? And he's like, oh no, bloody hell. Yeah. And then Thursday, where are we going for dinner? It's like, oh gosh, yeah. And then Friday, 3:00 Friday, angry, resistant, husband chooses a restaurant. They go out to dinner. What sort of night do you think they have, Shanna?
Not a very exciting or connected one.
Exactly. The piece that's missing in the communication is let's say on the Monday when the wife says, let's go out for dinner. And again, in a long-term relationship, hopefully the husband would realize this, but the context is, and I'd love you to pick a place. Right. I don't care where it is, but it just shows.
Show me that you care. And also I could see another context, which is, I'd love to go out for dinner. Who is the one to take responsibility for this, right? We might say that, for some, the masculine role could be, I'm going to be the leader here. But I think there's also an opportunity to say, okay, who's going to take the lead on this one versus having an expectation.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And to your point, exactly. So the content is, let's go to dinner on Friday night.
Yes.
But one week the context might be, I'd love you to choose the restaurant. I'd feel really valued and seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 2 weeks later, it's like, I don't actually care if you come because I want to try this new Indian restaurant. I'll go with my girlfriends. But neither have been fully communicated.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And the husband, again, it's like he might go, I want to watch the football Friday night. I don't actually want to go to dinner.
Yeah.
Doesn't communicate that.
It doesn't say so. Okay.
Exactly. And then, and also I'm busy, I'm making decisions all the time. Why do I have to choose the restaurant? All of these unsaid things, which in a safe container, if you create the safety, it's like, is it okay if we don't go Friday night? And the wife might go, that's fine. I want to go out with my girlfriends anyway to this restaurant.
Right.
I know it's a shortened version. Can you see the nuances?
Yeah. And I often suggest when I'm working with couples too, that it's like, okay, if we're going to say no to something, that we either create another offer or that we don't just, have a hard no, that's not me. I don't like that. I don't do that. But more, okay, this is what I'm noticing. I notice these are the parts of that I'm really, I like. These are the parts that I'm struggling with. These are the parts that, yes, and who's going to do this part, which part, right? If it were you choosing the restaurant, I feel really relaxed. If it's me, I notice this week is just crazy for me and I don't even know if I'm going to have time to look for it. All of those nuanced conversations to be connected instead of this is somebody's role and I'm just going to expect that without talking about
it. Exactly. And it's about telling the whole truth. Not part of the truth, not most of the truth, not manipulating the truth, with loving intention.
With loving intention, right? Because
it's gotta be. It's like, let's go out to dinner Friday night.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to choose a place. I don't really care.
No.
I just feel seen if you can do that.
If you did, yeah.
And husband gets to respond.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I've got a crazy deadline Friday. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, right.
But
or could we have got a crazy day on Friday? I think I would actually be able to be more present and connected with you on Saturday. How would Saturday work, right? This win-win, like you said.
It's the win-win or no deal, but it comes from whole truth and it comes from context. Yeah?
Yes.
Do we want to have time together this weekend?
Yeah.
That's the context. Yep, great. Okay. Does it matter if it's a coffee on Saturday morning or if it's a lovely walk on Sunday or dinner on Friday night?
Right.
No, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sunday suits me and the context is we're going to have time together. Does that work? Perfect. Yeah. Win-win.
Yes. I also love, I've been talking with my partner about creating a date next weekend and we're in the middle of the conversation of, okay, what's the best environment for what we want to create? Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes getting to the point of, okay, where are we going? What are we creating here? What do we want? What do we each want? What's important to each of us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how do we create that, and who creates which part of it?
Exactly. You know, I had a client recently. She was, you know, her and her husband were bumping heads about a holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she wanted to go palm trees. He wanted to go ski field. Yeah. And, you know, taking her through the layers of context, it's like, do we want to go on a holiday together?
Uh-huh.
Actually, no. I'm happy to go to the palm trees with my girlfriends, and I'm going snowboarding with my mates.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, great.
That's okay.
You know, it's like, but they were arguing because they wanted to do different things until they went up to the higher layers of context. Yeah. Now, if they wanted to go together, it's a different conversation. But again, we often don't unpack that. You know, it wasn't about going together this holiday.
Yes. Yes.
She wanted to go and sit by the palm trees.
He wanted to go snowboard.
Exactly.
Okay. So if we come back to your struggle, what are a couple things that you're practicing as far as either letting go of control or working with that need to control that the listeners can get a sense of, that they could practice too?
Yeah. And, you know, fundamentally, as you teach, you know, when I talk about relationship, the key to successful relationship, if there are 2 or 3 keys, is to unconditionally love yourself. Yeah, like you've got to do the work.
Really love yourself.
Yeah, you know, and then bringing your best version to the relationship. And so, for me, I know the control is just my scared little boy.
Yeah.
You know, and the listeners know that 0 to 7 is the foundational time when, you know, our trauma occurs, our not good enough occurs, our fear occurs. It's not good or bad, it's the human experience. And so for me, I have many, many different ways to self-soothe my little boy.
Yeah.
It's part of my practice. Obviously, I've got my therapist and my coach as well.
Yeah.
And I know when I get triggered, when I get defensive, he's just scared. My little boy's just scared, you know. And
which that is such a loving act toward yourself, to recognize, oh, there is this part of me. It is a younger part. I can self-soothe or ask for what I need or get some support.
Yeah.
But I don't have to make myself wrong and beat myself up, which then creates the defensiveness or the stonewalling or all the other stuff that we can pull.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the drama triangle, which is, you know, so tempting, is to jump into and be the victim or the persecutor or the rescuer instead of jumping out of it and going, okay, you know, big me, adult me can soothe little me. And again, I don't know this all the time yet I have awareness, and it's one of the tools I use is to go, that's all I've got to do. And for me, that can be going for a walk. It can be just coming to my room, sitting on the meditation husk. And literally, I'm quite a visual person. I can literally visualize that little boy and give him a hug.
Awesome.
You know, I literally soothe him and everything settles.
Yeah.
Because then big me, the more aware me, can meet the conversation in a different way.
You know? Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you. And again, you know, being a man in the world who is willing to share about the vulnerability and what it's like to not have it together all the time or not be your best self all the time. I think we all need to hear that, men especially. And, you know, no matter what gender we are, there is a sense of, right, we're all doing our best and trying to be our best selves in relationship, and we're going to fall down. And that's why the podcast is called Practicing Love, because then, you know, then we're going to practice and we're going to humbly, hopefully, come back to each other and say, all right, that wasn't my best. I'd like to try that again, or can you forgive me, or any of those things.
And one of the fastest ways, you know, and certainly when I work with the men, you know, the saying is, you know, if life is a school, committed relationship is the university. You know, like this is the work, you know. And again, we're householders, most of your listeners. We're not monks. We're not, you know. And as a householder, you know, in a marriage, in a committed relationship, children, whatever it might be, often, particularly for men, don't understand true freedom comes from true commitment. I'm
Wow.
all in. I'm all in. I'm all in. And as soon as you go all in, all your stuff's going to come up. But that's the work.
Yeah.
That's what the university is about. You want
Yeah.
to love yourself, go all in.
Wow.
Commit fully, energetically to the safe container. And then, that's where the freedom is. True freedom.
Yeah. Right. And if it's not a safe container yet, then you actually have the capacity to create that with your partner and to set that up. That is often what happens in some of my sessions where it's like, okay, we gotta go meta. We have to back up a little bit and see, how are you speaking to each other and how are you thinking of each other, and right, what are those foundations and contexts?
Yeah. And fundamentally, it's actually not about the other person.
Right.
If you can hold that as a point of reference for yourself, I just think that's just so powerful. They're just mirroring back a part of you haven't loved, you haven't healed.
So powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And for people who want more of you, where do they find you?
Yes, I've got a podcast called True Freedom. It's on all the podcast apps, so please look at that. And, my website, bodhialdridge.com. We'll put them in the show notes. Feel free. And there's free meditations there. And any of the men listening who, want to dive deeper into the hero's journey, those sorts of things, there's plenty of information there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to listeners.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Practicing Love. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and gained insight into yourself and your current and past relationships and inspiration for what's possible. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review to help people find us. If you'd like more support in your love life, be sure to get your free copy of my best-selling book, Honest Sex, at shanajamescoaching.com/free. That's shanajamescoaching.com/free. And we'll see you next time.